Hey there fellas, and welcome back to Build Byte, the show where we gather around a smithy and talk builds. Very quickly before we begin, if you like what we do here and want to support the channel, the best way to do that is to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Every single bit of engagement helps hugely, and hopefully YouTube's almighty algorithm will recommend this kind of content to yourself and others in the future. Last time I asked you what build you'd like featured in the next installment, and we got a huge swath of build ideas from it. The most suggested build type was that of the supportive scout. Some might say the scout is doomed when it comes to firepower, and that he struggles to hold his own during a swarm, and that the kill count at the end of the round is proof of this. But the true power of the scout just cannot be accurately measured by the quantity of his kills. In this episode of Build Byte, we'll be flexing our superfluous versatility, and we'll be emboldening our effectiveness at both single target damage and crowd control, all while keeping your team in one piece and leaving the bugs in many. The versatility, the tactical edge, the fast-paced moment-to-moment decision-making, and the unique learning curve define this very build, which I like to call the Shock Runner. The M1000, accurate and powerful even before modifications. However, in its current state, you can make a pretty good argument against the use of charged shots, with charged shots consuming 2 bullets per shot and dishing out less DPS than you would if you were just rapidly hip-firing. We need to add just a dash of utility into the mix to more convincingly justify the usage of the charged shot. The unstable overclock electrocuting focus shots is just what we need to amp up those costly attacks. This overclock is going to solve a few problems for us, as well as open up a few possibilities for both ourselves and our team. Electrocuted targets are dealt damage over time, but also have their mobility slowed substantially. This overclock comes at the cost of charged shot bonus damage. To make up for that, we'll be taking both damage mods on Tier 1 and Tier 3. When it comes to body shots, the electricity will wind up dealing more damage than you would without the overclock, but you'll be losing out on a bit of weak point damage overall. That's okay though. After all, this is a supportive scout build with a focus on utility, and don't you worry, we'll make up that damage, and then some, later on.
Ain't no more breeding for this mama.
Armor breaking on Tier 2 will allow us to accurately pick apart Praetorians from any distance, making them more vulnerable to damage from both us and our team. This is going to be particularly useful for setting them up for massive damage later on, even if our team isn't there to help. Armor breaking gives us just that little bit of extra utility, increasing our effectiveness against higher priority bugs, one shot at a time. Just a few rapid hip-fire shots is all you need to expose a Praetorian's big green bulbous, but keep in mind, a charged shot, if landed on an armored hitbox, will damage that bug, break their armor, and apply that electrocution effect. This means you can cripple a Praetorian's movement, make them more vulnerable by decreasing their armor, and deal some damage all in one shot, requiring minimal aim and less cognitive resources. On top of that, throwing some blow-through rounds into the mix can potentially quadruple our damage to crowds. Our rounds can now penetrate bugs, their armor notwithstanding. This is huge for us, as it means we can cripple crowds of Praetorians with a simple charge shot. As well as this, putting extra effort to line up targets will reward our ammo economy significantly. Stun on Tier 5 is going to allow us to interrupt Praetorian attacks, send Glyphid menaces running, and put the halt on those deceptively nimble wardens, allowing us to close in. Right, so now we have a particularly strong and practical rifle. It checks a lot of boxes for a player who values versatility in their builds. The focus damage we miss out on by taking this overclock does hurt, especially in the way of weak points. However, what we're left with is still capable of just the perfect amount of power we require. With a single charge shot anywhere on the body, you will eat out a chunk of an acid spitter's health, only for the electricity to finish it off every time. You'll find similar results against tri-jaw macteras. A single focus shot to its weak point brings it to just the perfect amount of health for it to succumb to the electrocution. A simple hip-fired headshot can wipe out a Glyphid grunt too close for comfort, and a focus shot will cleanly pick off a Glyphid slasher anywhere on the body. And for Glyphid guards, if you get a weak point focus shot, you'll take one down in one shot. Your single target prioritization is heavily rewarded, and your potential to support your team from afar by shocking high threat targets is perfectly fitting with the spirit of a marksman. but that's just not good enough. With our dual SMGs crafted to decimate crippled targets afflicted with electricity, we'll be able to consistently unleash lethal volleys of bullets against high-value targets. With the special Tier 5 mod Conductive Bullets, our damage against electrified targets gains a huge boost. After using our M1000 to electrify targets, we're able to quickly switch over to our dual SMGs and claim our free extra damage. However, we'll need to act fast, as our targets will only be shocked for 6 seconds. It used to be 4 seconds just a few weeks ago, but now it is 6. By speccing out our SMGs to capitalize on this short bonus damage time frame, we'll be able to make the most of our setups. We'll want a big magazine, good damage, and a fast rate of fire. To aid us in this endeavor, we'll throw on custom casings, a balanced overclock to boost our magazine capacity, and then we'll install the supercharged feed mechanism to boost our rate of fire. Taking the direct damage bonus on Tier 1 and that accuracy mod on Tier 3, we'll be able to dish out good damage and at consistent ranges, meaning less distance for you to have to travel in order to take out that electrified target. Hollow Point Bullets on Tier 4 synergizes magnificently with the rest of our setup. Naturally stacking with Conductive Bullets, hitting an electrified target's weak point is going to deal a disgusting amount of damage, and we'll be able to pull off these weak point shots with staggering consistency thanks to our accuracy. So much so that electrifying a breeder with your M1000, then hitting its weak point with your Zhukov is a shockingly effective way of taking them out, and it makes not taking cryo hurt so much less. Now, this build isn't perfect, and there are some enemies which are immune to electrocution, such as oppressors, shellbacks, and dreadnoughts. And to that I say, thank goodness we have 6 IFGs. With this build, IFGs are extremely powerful. The bonus damage you get from the IFGs stacks with the bonus damage to electrified targets and weak point bonus damage. What this means is you can toss an IFG onto an oppressor, swap over to your SMGs, and unload into his weak spot, checking all 3 boxes, dealing huge damage, and making him vulnerable to a finishing blow with your pickaxe power attack. Just from one clip. This build is one of the fastest ways to take out an oppressor as a scout on Hazard 5. On the more supportive side of things, we'll be running 2 active perks, Field Medic and Shield Link. Scout is in a unique position where, due to his high mobility, he can spread his influence over a great area. Your mobility gives you a bunch of options, especially during a swarm. If a teammate is separated from the group for whatever reason, you can zip over to him, boost his shield, drop an IFG, do what you need to do, maybe take out a warden, and then get back to your other teammates to help them out there. Supporting your team can be the difference between success or failure. Being able to save your teammates from going down means your group remains strong and capable of outputting a sufficient amount of damage, which is particularly important to you as a scout, because while this build is versatile and has crowd control potential, it still doesn't have the firepower of Gunner or the crowd control of Driller. You're going to want to stick to your team and support them, which is exactly what this build is all about. And things like Shield Link and Field Medic are in to assist with. Even the high single target damage allows you to pick off important targets like Wardens, Praetorians, and Oppressors so that your team can focus on dealing with swarms more easily. And I just gotta say, this kit fits snugly within the Scout's line of work. There's so many features of this build which just make the Scout excel and reach the maximum potential of team support. Detonator just spawned and is approaching your uplink? Not a problem. With this kit, the Scout can zip over towards the detonator, toss down an IFG, and zap it with its M1K, completely immobilizing it for the team to fire at from a safe distance. This is another strategy which has gotten extremely powerful with the new 6-second buff to Electrocuting Focus Shots. Scout often goes out and explores on his own though. While a scout does have the tools to make sure he sees any threats ahead while exploring onward, sometimes circumstances arrive where a scout needs to defend himself while away from the group. While obviously not optimal to be in combat away from your team, the scout can effectively hold his own even against sizable swarms with this build. With the M1000 Shock and Zhukov Prophet combo, you're going to be incentivized to swap between weapons fairly often here. meaning your ammo usage is going to be spread across 2 weapons instead of just having an over-reliance on just one. In this build, many situations call for the use of both weapons. This means moments where you're forced to use a weapon despite it not being ideal for a situation because your alternate weapon is out of ammo will pop up less frequently. Instead of being completely out of one weapon, ideally, you'll be half empty on both your primary and your secondary before needing a resupply. The M1000 also has a neat little trick you can learn if you really want to squeeze the most out of its ammo capacity. The magazine has 8 rounds and a charge shot takes 2 rounds. However, if you have 1 round left in your mag, you can fire a charge shot for half the price. Now this is such a small thing, and it doesn't really matter, but something about my brain just makes me get so much satisfaction from squeezing every little bit of usefulness from my magazine. Of all the scout builds that I love to run, I always find myself coming back to the shock runner. There's just something so primally satisfying to so easily crippling Praetorians and deleting them at such little cost or effort. I've been working on this build for the better part of a year, making adjustments, rolling with the changes that patches bring, and it seems that this build just gets stronger and stronger, with Electrocuting Focus Shots receiving really nice changes and buffs. With Season 3, this overclock got yet another buff, increasing electrocution damage per tick and increasing the amount of time that targets remain electrocuted, meaning the moment you shock, you have even more time to run than you did when I first started making this video a very long time ago. I gotta say, after using this build for over a year, watching it get better and better with each patch, I'd at least recommend you to give it a shot. Shocking a bug and running in to finish it off is just a playstyle that fits so well for the scout, and for me personally, I really like going fast, dealing damage fast, being useful efficiently and quickly. The support and utility elements in this kit help me fill a role I'm always trying to improve at when I play scout, and I find that jumping between areas and putting in work in all these different ways which this build allows just gives me this huge dopamine hit, and I only hope I could share this experience with you guys with this build, the Shock Runner. Thanks for watching. If you have any more ideas for a future build bind, please leave it down below in the comments, and I'll be informed as to what type of build for what class is most requested. Also, if you found this video helpful, informative, or even just fun to watch, go ahead and drop a like for me or leave a comment so that more players like you might be recommended DRG content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys again in 2024.
Electropenetration! Who doesn't love a little shock therapy?